Hello, everyone. This is Holly Chantal, and welcome to the Land of Brand Laboratory, or for short, we like to call it the LOBoratory. And if you've never joined us before, we meet every Wednesday, 12 o'clock Eastern Time, and we talk about different experiments in branding. So we talk about what works, what doesn't work, and things that you can bring to your own coaching business to build the brand of your dreams. So something that is unique, stands out, and allows you to share your message and your passion with the world. And today we're going to be talking about tech tools for coaches, because that is kind of like the boogeyman in the business world, is understanding technology. What are all the software pieces you need? What are all the tools you should be using? And how do you choose between the different tools? So let's go ahead and move over to the presentation. And basically how this will work is we will be talking for, this one's probably going to be about 30 minutes, maybe a little bit more, because we have a lot of tools to go through. And then at the end there will be time for questions. So as I'm going, if you have questions, on the right-hand side of your screen there's this little chat box. Feel free to put your questions in there, comments, things that you've tried, or suggestions that you have for the good of the group. We want to get lots of discussion going, because we love to hear from you, because you're a big part of the community and you have a lot of expertise as a coach or solopreneur yourself. And at the end, I will answer those questions. There is a slight 30-second delay, so the earlier you type in your questions, the better. That way we're not at the end and I close out before I even see your questions. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So in the reminder email, and on the website, I said that we were going to talk about 5 tools for running your coaching business online. But I got a little carried away, and we have 9 tools. It would have been a lot more than that, but I ran out of time. So we have 9 tools today, different pieces of technology that you can use to run your coaching business. And basically what I did was I looked at my computer and what I use, and just kind of listed down all the different pieces that I use to run my business. And I thought you guys might find that helpful. So tool number 1 is an autoresponder. An auto what? So if you've never heard of an autoresponder, chances are you have, because it's a pretty basic tool that you need as when you're running an online business. Basically, if you've ever been to a website and you see the little enter your name and email address here to receive whatever, that is a opt-in box where you give something away for free in exchange for an email. And that opt-in box connects to an autoresponder. And technically, an autoresponder is just emails that go out automatically when someone signs up to receive those emails. So when you put your name and email address in, what happens is that gets sent to the autoresponder. They get added to a list, whichever list that form is connected to, and then they automatically get a follow-up email delivering the freebie and any other follow-up emails you've set to go out at different intervals. Your autoresponder also manages your newsletter broadcasts, and it manages your different lists. So you might have different lists depending on if someone signed up for your newsletter or a teleseminar or a particular product you have, or they showed interest in something. So you might have these different lists of prospects, and this is where they're housed. This is basically your database. And your newsletters that you send out that have your blog posts in them and your sales emails, those kinds of things, those are sent out as kind of a one-off email to those different lists. And that's basically what the software does. So when you're looking for autoresponder software, these are some things that you want to look for. You want to make sure that you can have multiple lists. It's not just a database of everyone's kind of in the same category. You want to be able to separate people into different categories and different purposes. You want to make sure that you can create a form per list, and this usually is a given, but the only reason why I mention it is because Constant Contact, as of right now, it does look like they're making some improvements, so hopefully I won't have to say no to them forever. But right now, like with Constant Contact, if you put a form on your site, person puts in their name and email, instead of being added to the list of your choosing, they have to pick a list, which really is kind of silly because usually your lists are named like teleseminar or newsletter, and they don't necessarily know which one they should be on. And it also doesn't allow you to have anything private where people can just sign up and see what kind of lists you have. So most autoresponders will, you create a list and then you create the form that puts people on that list, and that's what you put on your website. Hope that all made sense. You also want to make sure that they have a good reputation and delivery rate. So there's pretty clear-cut top contenders for autoresponders, like iContact, Infusionsoft, Entreport, MailChimp, Aweber, Constant Contact. All of those big names depend on their delivery rate, and that means the number of emails that are sent that get into someone's inbox. So you want to make sure that they have a good reputation, otherwise your emails may get blacklisted and you'll end up in the junk folder. And my recommendations for autoresponders are Aweber and MailChimp for beginners, and then Infusionsoft and Entreport for advanced users. And the difference here is if you're starting out and you don't have a huge budget, Aweber and MailChimp are both around $20 a month for their lowest package. Infusionsoft and Entreport are $200 and $300 a month, plus Infusionsoft has a startup fee. So you need to have the income to be able to support a piece of software like that, but obviously they do a lot more than just deliver your email. So what I like to say is if you have multiple products that are upsells and downsales, so you have multiple products that you're selling, Infusionsoft or Entreport is good for you. And you also need to be making at least $50,000 a year in your business. That's kind of the starting point for those two pieces of software. Otherwise, Aweber or MailChimp will do what you need until you've grown to that point. Tool number 2 is your website host. And so your website host is where your website files are stored. It actually can be different than your domain. So when you register for your domain, like thelandofbrand.com, it doesn't necessarily have to be hosted at the same company that you purchased the domain. So I use Namecheap to purchase my domains. It's kind of where I just manage all my different domains because I have a lot more than just the ones you see. Like most of you, you get these ideas, you think of a cool domain, you go buy it. So I have, probably between 10 and 20 domains, and half of them I'm not really using. But the website host is where your website is actually housed, and the domain is basically just the address that points to the house, and the house is where the host is. So what do you want to look for when you're looking for a host? An easy-to-use cPanel, especially if you're not technically inclined. The cPanel is really important. So this is also really helpful for me as when we're installing websites onto someone's host. The cPanel is always there's a distinct difference between different companies because some they hide features, or you have to go through the company themselves in order to, for instance, GoDaddy. You can't just install WordPress. You actually have to go through all these steps for them to install WordPress, and then they email you when it's done, and it's just this whole irritating hullabaloo. So I like to have total control. So I like to use, I recommend HostMonster or Bluehost. We'll talk about that in a second. But something that has a good cPanel. Up-to-date software, make sure that they stay up-to-date with things like PHP, which is probably something you've never heard of, but it's important that their PHP is always kept up-to-date because WordPress is run on PHP, and sometimes they phase out previous versions and your website might stop working. Again, unlikely. Most software or most hosting does keep up on those things. The other thing you want to look out for that's not on here is whether they're run on Windows or Linux. Again, something you've probably never heard of, but is important. I think Linux is the one that you want because that runs WordPress the best. You want them to have a reputation for good uptime. Again, look up reviews on the company that you're thinking about and make sure that they don't have all kinds of complaints about websites going down, because that is a huge problem. If your website goes down and you're driving traffic to it, then you're wasting or you're losing a lot of money. Able to handle multiple domains. So some hosts, you have to jump through all these different hoops in order to add domains to your hosting, because most hosts you can host as many domains as you want. So I like to be able to manage all of the domains myself through the cPanel. So this is just a personal preference to be able to do add-on and parked domains in the cPanel itself. So just make sure that that's supported if that's something that's important to you as well. Oh, I see. Oh, there's a lot of questions coming in. So Sally just has a really quick question of something that I just talked about is cPanel. So cPanel is short for control panel, and it's kind of like the dashboard of your host. So when you're looking at hosts, they will mention if they use a cPanel or not. And cPanel is kind of a term. It's pretty specific to this type of dashboard as the cPanel. I forget what the other one is called. But if you actually, you know what, I can show you a cPanel. You know what? Let's do that really quick, because this is important and I can share my screen. So let me just log in. I'm going to log into HostMonster because that has a really good representation of what I'm talking about. Because you're right, cPanel is kind of a weird term. And here's the question is, will I be able to remember my password to get in? Apparently not. Let's try something else. I'm going to try one more time. If I can't get in, then we may be out of luck. Da, da, da. Here we go. All right, so I'm just going to drag this over. Okay, now you should be able to see the cPanel. So this is the cPanel of the host. And as you can see, there's just all these icons that are really intuitive about what they're for. So WordPress, if I want to install WordPress, I click WordPress. If I want to create an email account, I click email. If I want to check my email, I click that. Domain management, I can manage my domains right here. I can register domains. I can create add-on domains. So this is what was really important to me when I found a host, was making sure that all these domain features were in there. FTP accounts, that's important because that's how you upload and download files from your server. And that's really all you need. The rest of these kind of more advanced pieces like the PHP and the MySQL, that kind of thing, are probably things you won't use, but they're important to have in your hosting. So those are just the kinds of things that you want to look for. When you look at screenshots of the hosting, you want something that's just really simple to use like this versus a lot of gobbledygook. I know I won't be able to get into my GoDaddy account to be able to show you that. So unfortunately, I can't tell you what a bad cPanel looks like. But if you can see something that looks very easy to use, then that's usually a good bet. So back to the slides. Okay, so my recommendations are HostMonster and Bluehost for beginners. Those are actually sister companies. They're the same thing. Super cheap. I think hosting is about $3.95 a month for my package. And I actually don't host my Landed Brand website on either of these anymore because I upgraded to premium hosting, which is the second line here. WP Engine and Web Synthesis are for advanced users. So when you're getting a lot of traffic, when you need advanced security features, when your site, it needs to be super fast. So I had to switch because the Landed Brand's new website is really, really graphic heavy, and it was taking forever to load. So I had to upgrade to premium hosting so that it would load faster. Plus, if I was doing a promotion and selling a program, so we do those promotional webinars and we sell the program at the end, people would click on the link and my website would go down because there was too much traffic at once. So if you're running into that issue, you've reached that point in your business, then you need to switch to something premium. And the premium still isn't expensive. It's only, I think I'm paying $27 a month for my one domain. And they have a lot of really neat, nifty features. So WP Engine is the one that I'm starting to prefer. I've kind of played with both of them with different clients. And WP Engine has a lot of really neat features. My favorite is that you can click a button to create a backup of your site. So if you're going to be doing something weird like upgrading your plugins or installing something or moving posts around or just doing something that you want to make sure you can undo, then WP Engine's good because you can click a little button. It creates a what's called a restore point. You can fool around with your website, and if it looks good, great. If you broke it, then you just go back and you can restore it back to what it was without a lot of fuss. So that's really cool. So those are hosts. And next is tool number 3 is webinar and teleseminars. So what do these do? They allow you to broadcast your content live in a group setting. So it's kind of like a conference call. The difference between a webinar and a teleseminar is that a teleseminar is audio only and a webinar is video plus audio. So what you're watching right now is a webinar because there's a visual component and you're listening. A teleseminar, you would typically dial in with your phone and you would only hear me. Though sometimes there's a hybrid, which I'll talk about in a second, where you can dial in by phone, but you do see slides on your screen. So what to look for in a teleseminar platform is capacity to handle the number of participants you expect. Typically, you're paying per month for the number of seats you think you're going to have on each webinar or teleseminar, whichever. And sometimes, so with Instant Teleseminar, I think I had like their second package, which accommodated up to maybe 200 people at a time. And I had a webinar that had over 1,000 people registered. So I just emailed them and they let me upgrade for just the 2 days that I had that really big webinar because that wasn't typical. And I didn't have to pay for a whole month at that price. They just kind of upgraded it and prorated it for the couple days. So they're a really good company. They're under my recommendations. They're small enough that you can usually talk to the same person when you need customer support. But they're big enough that they handle a lot. A lot of the big gurus use Instant Teleseminar. I love them. They have a lot of really neat features. So back to what to look for. So it needs to be easy for both you and your participants to use. So teleseminars are very simple. Dial this phone number, put in this PIN. That's it. Webinars can get a little trickier. I like Webinar Jam because you click on the link and it's all pretty self-explanatory. You don't have to install anything. You're just watching the video. You can chat. It's really not that hard. GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar is another really popular platform and is very easy to use, but your participants do have to install a piece of software. And it has a lot of bells and whistles, which is fantastic and can also be confusing sometimes. So it's all in kind of your style and what you're comfortable with. You also want to look for features like chat, replays, and the ability to take questions because it's always good to be able to kind of get the back and forth with your participants to get a discussion going and to be able to answer their questions. That way it's not just a one-way street. And you can do both with teleseminars and webinars. You can usually do all of those things. So my recommendations, if you're not looking for a free platform, which if you're looking for something free, just do a search for free teleseminars, free teleseminar line. I would not recommend any free webinar lines. Every single one of them I've tried. It does not work. And it is a real pain and a real blow to your credibility when you cannot run a webinar. So Instant Teleseminar is a premium option. I think they start at $47 a month. It is worth every penny. They run teleseminars. They run the replays. They give you a dashboard link so that people can listen through their computer, their phone, or Skype. You can run slides at the same time, so you kind of are doing a webinar hybrid. You can't share your screen or show anything on your webcam, but you can use PowerPoint slides, which is really good when you're trying to deliver a lot of content. What else? They store all of your recordings. It says only for 30 days, but I literally have stuff on there for the last 2 to 3 years. And their customer service is fantastic. I love them. Webinar Jam is a great platform if you want to do webinars. It has a little bit of a learning curve the first couple times you use it, but they have a lot of support. They have a Facebook group. There's tutorials online. They have video tutorials in the platform itself, so as you're setting up your webinar, you can get your questions answered as you go. And it's what we're using to do this webinar right here. So it's very easy to use, and it posts right to YouTube, which is kind of cool. So after this is over, you'll be able to actually find this recording on YouTube. And there is an option that you don't have to have it public on YouTube if you're doing webinars they don't want everyone to be able to see. You can have it unlisted if you want. All right, and I'm just looking at the comments really quick. Kim says that she likes to instant teleseminar because people can either watch from their computer or call in to hear you. That's a really big plus, especially when you have international participants, because being able to use Skype and being able to use your computer is really good. A lot of times people don't want to have their phone tied up, so it's definitely a good feature. Anne says that she read that they changed hands and things have been going downhill. That's interesting, Anne, because I use Instant Teleseminar. I have not had any trouble. That does explain one thing, though. Their Skype name changed. But I still am able to get really good customer service from them. I actually had an issue just the other day, and I was chatting with them. But that's really good to keep an eye on, because I'm definitely not using it at the same volume I was, because now I'm using Webinar Jam. So it's good. I like hearing kind of what your guys' experiences are if you're using these pieces of software, what you like, what you don't like. So this is good discussion. Keep going. Did I skip something? Yeah, analytics. So tool number 4 is analytics. So what it does, analytics tracks the results of your marketing efforts. And it's really important that you're tracking what's working, what's not working in your marketing. Otherwise, you may be wasting your time and effort doing something that is not getting you results. There's just a few different types. So there's 2 different types of analytics that I use. One is traffic. So Google Analytics is traffic, keywords that are being used, how people are coming to your site. So it's kind of like the assessment of your marketing efforts. And then the second one is visitor behavior, which is kind of the results of what's going on your website. So I have Google Analytics installed, and I monitor it monthly. So I look at how much traffic I'm getting, how much that traffic is converting into opt-ins, how high the bounce rate is, so how many people are coming to my website and leaving immediately. So all those important factors about whether or not your marketing is effective. And then heat maps are another type of analytics that is installed on your website, and it's really cool because it records visitors on your site, not in like a creepy stalker way, but just kind of what their mouse does, and then it compiles all of those recordings and gives you a heat map. What does that mean? It means that you can look at a picture of your website and see where most people are clicking, what their mouse is doing on the screen. So what's really cool is you'll notice like hot zones as people's mouses move across your text, so you can really see what they're reading. It also shows how far people are scrolling down on your site. So the Land of Brand homepage is really long. It's a very vertically inclined website or homepage. So I can actually see how far people are making it down on that page. So if it's too long and people are only getting halfway, I might want to make sure that all the important information is up top, or I might just want to shorten it. So things like that is really helpful. And both Google Analytics and ClickTail, a version of ClickTail, is free. I use the free version. It's fantastic because I only have one site that I'm monitoring. And they're both very easy to install if you just follow the instructions. Tool number 5, how are we doing on time? All right, I lied. I'm going to go way over 30 minutes. So tool number 5 is project management. So what does this do? It keeps you and your team organized. So as you're growing your business and you have all these different initiatives, whether you're creating a product, you're doing something for a client, you're marketing, all of these things are different projects that need to be completed. And if you have multiple people on your team, or if you're doing something that takes multiple steps and you're just doing it on your own, you need some kind of system to keep yourself organized. So what to look for? Ease of use is gold here, number one, because there's a lot of project management platforms, actually most of them are really complicated, and if it's not super easy, your team is not going to use it. So if there's a hiccup in the system, your team won't use it. I've tried all different kinds of project management software for website design stuff, for website design projects, and the biggest hiccup I have had is being able to upload files and edit them without having to like upload and download and resave and like all these things. So I haven't used any of them. I stopped using most project management software pretty much immediately because they just that was a hiccup in the system. It was just too much of a pain, so we stopped using it. You want to make sure that it integrates across platforms, so you need to be able to access it across your different platforms, so your computer, your phone, your iPad, as well as different platforms, as in it integrates with. So, for example, the file issue that I was just talking about. Now, so this was a while ago. Now, most project management software will integrate with something like Dropbox or Google Drive or Evernote, so that what I was just talking about is no longer a problem. Like you can update the files in Dropbox, and then it updates it on the project management software, so you're not getting that kind of blip in the system. And also you want to make sure that they're customizable to your business. This is another big challenge that I've had with project management software, is being able to set up templates for projects that are repeatable, being able to customize them on a client basis, those kinds of things. So those are the things you want to look for, and it's really going to depend on what type of business you have, what kind of projects you have. If you're doing the same things over and over again, you need repeatable systems. But no matter what, you need some way to stay organized. So I recommend, I use Dropbox. If you're a client of mine, you know this. We all have Dropbox accounts, and we share files through Dropbox because as a website design projects is what we mainly do, and we need to gather all the content, the design, the pictures, like all those different things, and we need to make sure we always have the most up-to-date version. If we're trying to use email to share those files, files will get lost, or an old email will be the one that we pull when we try to upload a piece of content, so it ends up being outdated. So you want to have something that can be integrated between the people that are working on the project. Evernote works as well, and Asana. Asana is a free project management software. It basically creates to-do lists that you can assign to people, and they can check off as they go. I loved Asana. You can also create templates, I believe. So if you have projects that are similar to each other, you can create a template and then, just kind of create a new project that has that template, so all the steps are already populated. Asana was really good, and I know that they've improved since we stopped using them. I stopped using them basically because my developer and I just got very used to using Dropbox, and we actually no longer needed the little checklist. She has her own system that she uses for her checklist to make sure that everything's been tested and that she's done all the pieces she needs to do. But we didn't need to share those things between us, so that's why we don't use it anymore. If you want something more advanced, then Basecamp is probably one of the most popular project management software pieces out there. Teamwork PM, I used that for a while and I really liked it. So these are the 5 that I have used and would recommend. And I'm sure that some of you guys may have used some other things. So if you have ideas, feel free to throw them out there. I'm just going to take a quick sip of water. Goal tracking. This is a lot like analytics, but slightly different. So why should you be tracking your goals? If you aren't tracking your progress or lack thereof, that's key, you're missing a huge piece of your puzzle. So if you're not tracking your progress and you're doing really well, you won't know what's working that's making things go really well. If you're not tracking your progress and realizing that all the stuff you're doing is not helping, then you're wasting a lot of time doing something that's not going to get you results. So you have to be tracking your progress. I do it on a monthly basis and then a quarterly and then a yearly basis. So it's really important that you are looking at your numbers at least monthly so that you know you're kind of keeping the pulse on your business. And I use 2 different kinds of goal tracking. The first is marketing metrics, which is the analytics piece that we already talked about. And the second is financial. So actually watching the numbers of what's been sold, how much is being sold each month, how much is being spent on marketing or development or the cost of doing our projects, those kinds of things. So watching the money going in and going out is really, really important. And I recommend, I used to use FreshBooks, and because that was really good for, it's good if you're manually entering invoices and expenses. When that got too complicated, I switched to Outright, which is now run by GoDaddy. And Outright actually connects to your banks and your credit cards, and it'll populate everything automatically. And now I'm using QuickBooks, which is, just kind of the creme de la creme of accounting software. It manages everything. And the only reason why I switched from Outright to QuickBooks is because I changed my classification to a S Corp. Some of you will know what that means, some of you won't. But basically what it means now is that I'm an employee and I have to do payroll, and Outright wouldn't handle that. So those are the 3 pieces of software that I use. Outright and FreshBooks, very, very cheap. FreshBooks, I think, has a free version. QuickBooks, if you get a coupon or you get them at the right time, tax season, you can usually get a really good coupon. And the other thing is that they make taxes so easy because you basically just export your file. As long as you're going in monthly and kind of categorizing everything, you can just export your file and give it to your accountant and they have everything they need. And then goal tracking, I just use a spreadsheet. And basically what I have is the different things that I'm measuring, so the traffic, the conversion, the where that traffic's coming from, so social media, referrals, organic traffic, and then tracking the numbers as well. So what was my income this month? What was the expenses? How many of this did I sell? How many of that did I sell? And you track that on a monthly basis, and then you can look back at past months and you can compare and see, what was I doing at that month that was really working, or why did I tank that month? What happened? And you can really, again, keep a pulse on your business and know when things are going well and know when things are not going well, which is just as important. All right, and next, tool number 7 is a merchant account. So this is how people buy from you. Merchant account is what processes the credit cards and payments and puts the money into your bank account. So what do you want to look for? Competitive fees for your volume. So what that means is how many sales you're making per month will affect the fees that you're paying. So for example, I use PayPal, and I think the base fee is like 2.9% of any transaction. But if I'm doing more than $10,000, or it might be $5,000 to $10,000 a month, then that goes down to like 2.5%. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if you are doing $10,000 and it's a 0.5% difference, that's $500. That's a lot of money. So you want to look at competitive fees for your volume. You want to look at the monthly fees they have. That's also why I use PayPal, because it's only $30 a month, flat fee, no weird fees for statements, or they always have these weird fees hidden in the contract. So make sure that you're looking at that for the different companies that you're considering. PayPal is very straightforward, and I like straightforward, so that's one of the reasons I use them. Easy to use. I had my first merchant account was not easy to use. It had a really outdated back end, so I could never even see my statements. I could not see what the fees they were actually charging me were, and it was a real disadvantage to not be able to monitor the money that was coming in and how much I was paying, and being able to access all of those things. And that's why I switched and went to PayPal, because it's all, you just log into your PayPal, which everyone does anyway, and it has all the features that I needed. Authorize.net is also good. Again, I have not used that myself, but I've used it with clients, and they are probably one of the top merchant accounts out there, merchant software. So they're highly, highly recommended by a lot of people. So those are the two I would use. And with the new Apple Pay coming out, it's going to be interesting to see how that affects merchant accounts. I've actually considered switching to Authorize.net because they are going to be handling Apple Pay where PayPal may not. So we're just going to have to see kind of how that works and how that affects businesses to see what which merchant accounts are going to come out on top. So that I do not have any insight into right now, but just something to keep aware of as you're making your choice. Tool number 8 is a shopping cart. This connects to your merchant account so that people can buy things. So this is what shows someone a product, they click buy, they go through the process, putting in their order information. The order itself is run through your merchant account, so that's where the money is exchanged, but then the shopping cart delivers the product as well. So your merchant account is the back end, the shopping cart is the front end. So merchant account you see, shopping cart your client sees. What should you look for? You want to make sure that it's compatible with your merchant account, obviously. They're not all compatible with each other. Protects the digital content. We're in an online business world, so we need to be able to sell an ebook or sell a audio file or a video and have that protected so that people just can't share it willy-nilly and you not get paid for it. And it needs to connect with your autoresponder. This is one that a lot of people overlook because people are purchasing your products. You want to keep a list of who has bought what, and you may even have follow-up series and autoresponders based on what they've purchased to upsell or downsell or just keep in touch, so that when you are marketing to them again, you're still top of mind. My recommendations, I use PayPal for some things. I use PayPal with a lot of clients as well because, again, you can it's all integrated. So with PayPal, you can create buy now buttons or add to cart buttons. You don't have to have a separate piece of software. Infusionsoft is what I use, and that connects to my PayPal. So Infusionsoft is a full-blown shopping cart. It's a full-blown autoresponder. It's a full-blown CRM. It does everything. So that basically runs my entire business. OneShoppingCart.com is not my favorite, but it's my favorite lower price point shopping cart. It has an autoresponder integrated into it. You can add people to lists based on what they've purchased, which is a huge plus. The only reason why it's not my favorite is that the interface is just not as user-friendly as it could be. And that could have changed because I don't think I've been in One Shopping Cart for maybe a year at the very least. So they may have changed, but the last time I was in it, their interface was just still very clunky, just hard to use. And then WP Store for digital products. I'm not actually sure that's what it's called. I didn't have time to search for it, but if you search WP Store for digital products, you'll get, it usually comes up the first couple of Google, and it's just a plugin. I think it costs $49, and it connects to PayPal and your autoresponder. So kind of, it's the middleman. It's installed into WordPress, and it houses specifically digital products, so specifically ebooks, audios, videos. You put the URL to the file in the WP store, and what it does is when it takes the payment, it emails the client a encrypted link that expires after X number of hours that you set. And they have just that amount of time to download the file. That way they can't share it with everyone because it expires after a while. So that's a way to protect your products. And that's, again, super cheap. All these other ones have monthly fees, but the WP Store is just a $149 fee. And then it kind of connects PayPal to your autoresponder. So someone purchases, they're added to your Aweber or your MailChimp, and you're paid through PayPal. All right, I hope that helps. And last but not least, video editing software. So this is not essential. This is not something you have to run your business because not everyone's going to be using video, but it's something that I literally use on a day-to-day basis, so I just wanted to include it. What do I use it for? Recording and editing videos, duh. Green screen, so chroma key, so those videos you see of me with the Land of Brand behind me, I use a green screen for that. And green screen can be very complicated, but with Camtasia, which is my recommended software, it is super easy. You just shoot with the green screen, you click the little green screen button, and it takes out the background, and then you can put in whatever you want. It shoots with you want to shoot with a regular camera, so a webcam. I use a little hand cam. I just bought another webcam. Screen capture, so being able to record webinars, record PowerPoint slides, maybe you're doing a narrated video, and then recording webinars for replay. So right now, or when I used to use Instant Teleseminar, I would have slides and I would have the audio, but Instant Teleseminar does not record it as a video for replay. So if I wanted that, I would actually just set up my screen sharing software. I'd play the video and just record the slides as they went as a video, and then I can make that into a replay or sell that video. Right now I'm doing the blog marketology course, and we're using Instant Teleseminar to deliver that course, but I'm sharing a screen with everyone through join.me, which actually that could be number 10 is screen sharing software. Darn, I missed that one. But what I'm doing with that is I'm using Instant Teleseminar and a screen sharing software, and then I'm recording it through Camtasia so that I can post them into our learning environment. So you can use it for a lot of different things. That's a really complicated way to do it, but it's working for me. So what I recommend is Camtasia because there's a Windows version, there's a Mac version, and it is super easy to use, super intuitive, and it does everything you would ever need to do as an online business owner. So that is all of the tools that I would recommend, with the exception of a screen sharing software, because that's something that's really important right now, depending on what kind of clients you're working with. But for me, I share screens all the time with my clients, so I use join.me if that helps. So I'm going to kind of scroll back through and see what questions there are, comments. I do see a bunch of things from Anne. Thank you very much for your input. So let's look at that, and while you guys are kind of catching up to me and typing in your questions, let's talk about what we're going to talk about next week. So next week, we're going to talk about how stereotypes can be an asset to your brand. So why stereotypes are actually a good thing and how to use them to your advantage. If you have a topic you'd like to see, I'm putting together the October calendar. You can email holly@thelandofbrand.com, or if you have a question, email holly@thelandofbrand.com, and I will make sure that it gets on the calendar, and your question gets answered. All right. So I'm going to scroll back to the very beginning. Kim says that she's heard that if you do any type of affiliate marketing with MailChimp, they could take down your account if you use affiliate links. That's a really good question on if I think I have heard about that. I have not researched it, so that is definitely a consideration. If you're doing affiliate marketing, then you want to look into this. So I do affiliate marketing, which means that you're promoting a product for someone else, and in return, they pay you for any sales that you make. So if you're not allowed to use affiliate links in your emails, then that could be a huge problem. So that is something that I would do probably a quick Google search on, or ask MailChimp themselves before you signed up with them, if that's what you're planning on doing. So great question, Kim. That was a good one. Kim says, a friend of mine just purchased a new domain and the last part is .rocks instead of .com. What do you think of the new extension? One, that's awesome. The land of brand .rocks, that would be awesome. So this is purely opinion, but the .com has always been so standard that no matter what, that's what people are going to type in. So if it's landofbrand.com or .biz, .net, whatever, people are always going to type in the .com. On the other hand, with the way things are moving, there are other extensions are opening up. They are becoming popular, and the .com is probably not going to be the main domain forever. So what I would do is, I love the fun domains, so like the .rocks, the other kinds of extensions. But if you can, then I would also buy that domain as a .com, just for those that are going to type it in anyway, whether or not you've told them it's not .com, because it happens. So you want to make sure that you're buying both. You can use the .rocks, but you want to make sure you have the .com as well, just in case, because you don't want to be driving a ton of traffic to someone else's website. The other thing is, you might be thinking, oh, well, the domain has been taken as a .com. You need to make sure that that has not been trademarked. So whatever domain has already been taken that you're going to be using with a different extension, you need to look in the trademark database and make sure it hasn't been trademarked. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to use it anyway. You might get legal action taken against you, which is no fun. So that's a great question, Kim. Thank you. Anne says, I'm just getting out of a nightmare with Bluehost. Okay, so Anne said that the comment about them changing hands was not about instant teleseminar. That's because I wasn't reading this in context, so I apologize for that confusion. Anne said that the issue she was having was with Bluehost, which is, again, very interesting. I don't use Bluehost, but I use HostMonster, which is, I thought was the same company. So this is definitely something that I'll want to look into. So whenever you're looking for a host, or really any piece of software for that matter, you definitely want to do your due diligence and research things like this. See what kind of customer complaints there are. Look at review sites. Look at the Better Business Bureau. That's always really important to see what kind of complaints are against companies, whether they were resolved, those kinds of things. So thank you for bringing that up, Anne. That was great, great insight. Kim and Anne were talking back and forth about Bluehost. I'm not going to read all of it. Anne says that she uses Trello and Wrike. Trello, Trello, and Wrike, Wrike. And they're free and easy to use. I have heard of Trello. I have not heard of Wrike, so I'll have to check that out. I always like checking out new pieces of software, so I appreciate you kind of throwing those out there. And Trello, I think I remember, is really easy to use. I want to say, is that the one that you have like you almost have like a pin board? So instead of having post-it notes all over your wall, it's kind of like having a post-it note in your browser. And you can assign kind of the to-dos to different people, and you can have these different boards for different projects that you have. And I've heard that it works really well, so that's a really good suggestion as well. Anne says, I would also think that Trello would be good for goal tracking, because you would just make a board for your goals. Absolutely, that's a really good idea as well. Basically, if you're the type of person that likes to put things on a bulletin board, or you have post-it notes all over your desk, then something like Trello would be good for you, because it's very visual, and you can kind of keep those things updated and all in one place, so you can access it from different computers versus only when you're at home in your office. So very good. Anne says, I use WP eStore. It's great. and they have a free light PayPal version. So PayPal has actually improved a lot over the last couple months. There is a free business option, and I think I have the premium because it allows me to process credit cards for people that don't have a, actually, I'm not even sure what the difference is. I thought it was because I process credit cards without people having to have a PayPal account. That may not be the case anymore. I'll have to look at that. But there is a free version, there's a $5 a month version, and then there's a $30 a month version, which are all very reasonable. And they even added the ability to take subscription payments or payment plans without an additional fee. So typically when you're looking at merchant accounts and you're looking at the ability to break payments into multiple pieces or to have some kind of subscription like for a membership, typically that's an add-on fee that used to be an extra $30 a month, which makes your $30 a month payment become a $60 a month payment to just your merchant account, on top of the percentage they take from every single payment. So as you can see, merchant accounts can get very expensive very fast. So PayPal recently just made that a standard feature, so you don't pay extra for it anymore, and I don't even think you have to have a premium account for it anymore, which is definitely a plus. And says an affiliate platform for some other things. Great, so yes, the WP eStore has an affiliate platform that's an add-on to it, so that if you want to have other people promote your programs and you pay them a fee for what their referrals purchase, that's what you would use that plugin for. So great. Kim says, I've also heard that Sony Vegas is fantastic for video editing. Thank you, Kim. I have never heard of that, so I cannot speak to that. But thank you for kind of throwing out other pieces of software. This is great. And says, a cheaper version that does less but is still great is Screencast-O-Matic. It's $15 per year. Yeah, so if you're just doing really screencasts, fairly simple, don't need to do a lot of editing, there's a lot of different pieces of software out there. If you just do a search for screencast software, if you're doing tutorial videos or you're doing PowerPoint videos, there's a lot of really cheap options out there, so definitely check those out. Kim says, I too use join.me and it is awesome. Good, good. Anne says, you can link a card in your goal tracker to a project board for that metric. Very cool. Not sure what that was in relation to because this is probably way outdated from when I was talking. But good. Kim says, thank you, Holly. This was great. Okay, I don't see any more questions coming in. I don't see any more comments. So thank you all for coming and listening and participating. I love hearing what you guys are doing. So that was a plus to hear kind of what's working for you guys and what pieces of software you recommend. Because really all I was showing you was the stuff I use, and I definitely am not the end-all be-all when it comes to what software to use. But I try not to recommend anything that I haven't actually used myself. And I'm going to be putting together if you want links to any of these things, let me know. I'm going to be putting together a resource section on our blog that will give you reviews on all of these things with our affiliate link for some of them. So if you have any questions, email holly@thelandofbrand.com. And if you have any topics that you'd like to see, definitely email me as well, and I'll get them on the October calendar. But that is all, folks. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week, and I will see you next Wednesday. Bye.